with first is Zoe's question of the day. Okay, so Zoe, what is your question for the class?
Okay. My question is, what do you guys usually do for fun?
Nice. Okay, so now number two here, what are some things that people could say as examples of what they could do for
Um,
fun?
as my answer is, I like to sing, so I sing a lot in my free time for fun.
Good, good. So you like to sing in your free time for fun. Okay, this is a great question. I love it, Zoe. So how about Ray? What do you like to do for fun or in your free time?
Uh, Listen to music.
hmm So, can you use a full sentence? How would you use a full sentence to tell us that?
I always listen to music in my free time.
Okay, there we go. So, class, just as a general rule, whenever you answer a question, since you all are a little bit more advanced, let's always answer in a full sentence so that we can make sure that we are building our sentences correctly in English, okay? All right, so who's next? How about Leo? What do you like to do in your free time?
I always play basketball in my free time.
Okay, you always play basketball, so I bet you're really good. All right. Okay. And Sandy, what do you like to do in your free time?
Okay,
Oh, I think we're having a little trouble hearing you there.
okay. I always watch TV series in my free time.
Oh, TV series. What is your favorite series right now?
Have you ever heard of JoJo and Adventure?
No, I haven't. How
Okay,
about the rest of the class? Has anyone else heard of that one? Yeah. Okay. Good. It looks like very nice. Okay. And who else would like to tell us? What do you like to do in your free time? Dylan, or so far I only have a few students on my screen. So I believe I saw Dylan is in the class. What do you like to do with your free time?
Okay, we will come back
How
to him
about,
later.
yeah,
We can
yeah.
go on. We can go on.
Okay, so that's good. Great question of the day, Zoe. So for everyone else, this was a good example of a question of the day. Nothing too difficult, but just a little icebreaker so that we can get to know each other better and to get our minds thinking in English. Okay, so next. All right, for homework, yesterday, you all were supposed to do a KWL chart, which stands for things you already know or things you know, things you want to know, and the last letter, which we didn't do today, but are things that you have learned. So does anyone, how about Ray? Could you share with the class some of the things that you already knew about the Olympics?
Um, I mm, I know some sports, just like uh, uh, weightlifting
Yeah.
and gymnastics and
Gymnastics
gymnastics and archery.
and archery. Okay, so for everyone, we have weightlifting, and then gymnastics, I bet everyone knows. Cartwheels and flips, and then archery with the bow and arrow. All right, good sports. All right, and how about Zoe? What were some things that you already knew?
I know that the rewards for the winner is golden medal for first place and silver medal for second place um and some and the bronze medal for third place.
Yes, you got it. So gold, silver, and bronze are the medals the athletes get when they are the top three, first, second, and third. So very good. All right. And how about Leo? What are some things you want to know?
I want to know history of Olympics.
The history of the Olympics. Okay, that's a good thing to learn, and it would be very interesting. How about you? Um, how about Barry? Barry, how about what do you want to know?
I want to know how to describe the sports and race in English.
Oh, yes, how to discuss the races and the sports. So maybe we will learn how to describe how someone is doing in a sport. Maybe they're doing really well, or they're running very fast, or they're very talented. So a lot of things that we can say about the sports that we are watching or learn about for the Olympics. Good. Okay, so here, and I'm going to, if you want to switch to speaker view to see the chart a little better for both the observers and the students, I'm going to talk a little bit here. But so some summaries of some of the things that you or other classmates said for things they already knew. So like Ray said, most people already knew some sports that are in the Summer Olympics, like basketball or tennis, or some of the others like Ray mentioned, weightlifting or even archery are in the Olympics. Most people knew how often the Olympics happen, so every 4 years, and also that there are winter and summer Olympics for sports done in the warmer weather and sports that are usually done at winter time, like hockey or figure skating or skiing. Okay? And then some of the things that people wanted to know are how do the athletes prepare? So athletes go to all different countries, and sometimes the weather or even the food and the culture may be very different from the country that they are from. And so how do they prepare? That's something someone wanted to know. And the history of the Olympics, Leo, that's something that you wanted to know, the history. And then also, what makes athletes want to do the Olympics? Like, why would someone want to participate? Because it takes years and years of hard work to get to the Olympics. So why would anyone do that? Why do people want to do that? So those are some summaries from other students. Okay. All right. So now let's do a quick warm-up activity, which will be word wall. So yesterday I mentioned doing a word wall activity for the class, but instead I'm going to go ahead and just share with you the link here, and I want each of you to complete this word wall activity. I'll share it in the chat now. And I will give everyone 5 minutes. So I'm going to keep a timer and we'll just have 5 minutes to complete this activity. So there's the link to WordWall. Observer, oh, I think that's the wrong link. Okay, that's all right. Let's see if I can get it. Okay, I can just grab the link from, I have it somewhere else. One moment. Okay. And okay. And here is the correct link. All right. So observers, please only let the students sign into this because it's going to collect their name and some exercises, and we will go over all of the questions at the end of the exercise, so you'll get to see all of the questions. But students, if you just click the link and you'll provide your name, and then it's a fill in the blank of some of our vocabulary words from last class. So this will help you just remember some of those words from last class. So I'm going to start the timer now. We have 5 minutes. So at 9, or I guess it's 10:18 a.m. We will reconvene. 10:18 a.m. Okay.
Okay,
Go ahead, Luke. I'm sorry.
I just talking to them. If they have any trouble, just let me know.
Now, while the students are working on this project for the observers, if anyone has any questions that they would like to just quickly ask over the next few minutes here, type them in the chat, and then I can also try to address a few of those while the students work on their WordWall project. No pressure. Just if you have a question that you've been wanting to ask, you could go ahead and do that in the chat. Oh, okay, that's a good question, Suzanne. So usually it takes, I would say it depends on the class because sometimes if I'm using information or a lesson that I've used before, then it'll take a little less time. I can just update it for the particular class I'm teaching. But for a brand new lesson, if I'm also creating a presentation like the one you're viewing today, I would say about maybe 2 to 3 hours, and this is completely from what I want to teach, thinking of the activities, putting it in a presentation, and preparing for the class. I would say about 2 to 3 hours. But also using something like this, it does take a little longer because I'm not as familiar with it. So that also depends. But there are a lot of resources that you can use to speed up that time. Sometimes there's already lesson plans created. Sometimes you can use worksheets or other materials so that you don't spend as much time creating everything fresh. The most challenging thing about teaching students online, this doesn't necessarily happen with this group because most everyone is very into learning and wants to be here. They choose to come here. Sometimes teaching online for other students, especially young learners, it's just hard to keep attention span because we're communicating, we're talking, and it's really hard to keep their attention span focused on a screen in front of them. So I do teach some younger children, ages like 4 to 6 online, and that's the most difficult, just keeping them engaged with the lesson. All right, students, we will, I would say, finish up. You will have about another 30 seconds, and if you don't complete all the questions, that's okay. We're going to go over all of them. So this was just an exercise to get us remembering some of our vocabulary. Okay? Okay. All right, so I will share my screen now and we will go to the answers. And if anyone else has a question, I see I have the two. If anyone else has a question, if you leave them in the chat, I will address them after our class. So I'll respond to you in the chat. So feel free to continue answering or asking questions. Okay. So I will share my screen now. Hopefully everyone can see that. And here we go. So, okay, so our first question was the horrible, actually, how about Zoe? Can you read our first question?
Okay. The horrible typhoon was an international news story. It made headlines all over the world.
Yes, very good. That was correct. International. International. All right. Next, how about Leo?
My friend is a great athlete. He plays football, basketball, and tennis.
All right, great. You got it. And okay, Ray.
Uh, who will host Thanksgiving dinner this year?
Awesome. All right, host. Good. And now, how about Barry?
Runner came in the first place. She received a gold
Oh, sorry. I went to the wrong. There you go. She received a
gold medal.
great. All right, a gold medal. Good for first place. Gold medal. All right. And Sandy.
The president represents every citizen of the country.
Ah, yes, represents. Represents. Okay, good. Represents. All right, we'll go back to Zoe.
It is a tradition to sing the happy birthday song when it's someone's birthday.
Good. It is a tradition. A tradition. Good. And now, how about Ray?
The swimmer came in second place. He received a silver medal.
Got it. A silver medal. All right. And Leo.
The gymnast came in third place. She received a bronze medal.
Good. A bronze medal. Very good. And last but not least, let's go back to Barry.
Taiwan will uh, compete against Malaysia in the football match.
Good. Malaysia. So Malaysia, another country. So Malaysia, Taiwan will compete against Malaysia. All right, great job. So how did everyone do on that? I think it sounds like, and it looks like most of you were able to get through that assignment pretty well and remembered a lot of our vocab from last class. So great job with that. Okay, let's move on to today's lesson. Let's get started. All right. Now that we're all warmed up. So this would be a good time to go to the present or the speaker mode. So I'm going to do a little talking here, and so it might be easier to see if you go on speaker mode. All right. So first we'll start with today's lesson, which will have a little video. Okay, so what I want you to do with this video is just listen. Listen and to what they're saying. So this is a video about athletes and and them talking about the Olympics. Okay? So let's just listen to the video and see what they say. Okay? Hmm. That's so interesting. Huh. Well, my video, it doesn't play. Interesting. Okay. Well, that is okay. We have another solution for this problem. So I will just pull up the video very quickly. So this video, and while I'm working on pulling that up, this video is about one of the questions that one of your classmates wanted to know. So keep that in mind of this is something that one of your classmates wanted to know. Okay? So let's just think about that. And all right, now I will share my screen and we can get started. All right.
Every kick I've ever thrown, and it's an accumulation of every bruise I've ever had, every time I've cried in training. It is something.
Okay, let's just restart the video now. Okay. Here we go.
The Olympics is one of the best things that humanity does, I think. It really brings the world together every 4 years.
It's a competition in its purest form. You're competing for yourself and for your country. And it doesn't get any better than that.
It's an accumulation of every kick I've ever thrown, and it's an accumulation of every bruise I've ever had, every time I've cried in training. It is something that I've wanted since I was a little girl. I remember being 9 years old and standing in front of my state championship banquet, telling them I'm gonna get the Olympic gold and I won't stop until I do it.
It's the gateway to the gold medal, a thing that I've been envisioning myself with my whole life.
We don't focus on politics. We don't focus on race. We don't focus on gender. We don't focus on religion. We focus on sport. And it really is the one platform that we have where sports is the only thing that matters.
It's a celebration of that exploration, except with the individual. I mean, for me, it's always been about exploring how far I can go, how far I can push myself.
I truly believe that sport is something that just binds countries, forgets about borders, and just it's one of those things that we can all participate in and reminds us that we're all really not that different from each other.
Okay. So we got to hear from a few athletes in that video. All right, so okay. So now, let's go back. So listening comprehension. So what was the main point of that video? Can anyone tell me, what was the main point of that video? First off, does everyone know what I mean when I ask what is the main point? Ray, do you know what I mean by that?
I think the main point of the video is what does Olympic mean to these athletes?
Yes, that was great answer. So for everyone, the main point of something, a main point is the most important item of something. So what is the most important, or what is the video about? If you had to, even though many of the athletes said different things, what is the overall or the general most important thing that each of them have in common? So Ray did a very good job there, because he said it's what does the Olympics mean to those athletes? And so even though each athlete said something different, all of them talked about what the Olympics means to them. So that is the main point. Good. And so can anyone give an example of what the athlete said? And it doesn't have to be word for word. You can say it in your own words, but what were some of the reasons or the meanings that they gave for what the Olympics means to them or why they may participate in the Olympics? Leo, can you think of something that an athlete said? Did you hear anything?
Compete for their country.
Yes, very good. So they're competing for their country. What's another vocabulary word we learned that we could say? The athlete, their country. Starts with an R.
Can you say that again?
What's another word we could use? So the athletes compete for their country. What's something else we could say that they do? Their country.
Okay.
That's the start. Do you remember?
Represent.
Yes, there you go. They represent their country. Great. Okay, anyone else? How about Sandy? What's another reason that athletes gave for wanting to be in the Olympics? Oh, sorry, Sandy. I think we can't hear your. Oh, there you go.
Okay. I think is they all want to win the first place, and they are happy to hear the news of they are win the first place.
Yes, they all want that gold medal, and it's something that they've thought about and dreamed about for most of their lives. So that is a big reason why they do it, because it's something that they've wanted for so long. So they work very hard to get it. Okay, very good. So now let's talk about some vocabulary words that we heard in that video. Okay, so this is a good time to go back to speaker mode to see everything. And actually what I will do is hopefully let me know, Luke, if even in speaker mode this might be too small. I know there's a lot of information on this slide. But let's look at some vocabulary words that we heard. Okay, so the first word, humanity. Humanity. Can everyone repeat that? Humanity.
Humanity.
Okay. So humanity means the human race or all humans collectively. So when we talk about all humans, we can say humanity. Humanity. So that's usually when we mean everyone. We don't separate or distinguish or call out any one human. We mean everyone, all humans together. That is humanity. Humanity. Okay. Another word we heard was accumulation or accumulate. So can you say that? Accumulate?
Accumulate.
And accumulation.
Accumulation.
Good. All right. So that is to accumulate is to add together or to collect. And usually it's done very gradually or slowly over a period of time. So to accumulate, to gradually gather something, or an accumulation used as a noun means it's all of something that has been gathered. So there could be, let's think about, can anyone give an example of something that might accumulate? Can you use that word in a sentence, to accumulate? I'll give an example and then let's see if you can. Okay? So I could say the snow Snow. The snow is accumulating. Accumulating, meaning the snow is gradually adding up. So as it snows on the ground, there is an accumulation of snow. Okay? So what is something else that could accumulate? Can anyone use that in a sentence? Zoe, Ray? Anyone want to try to use accumulate or accumulation in a sentence? It's okay. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. A lot of accumulate. Yeah, that is a difficult one. A lot of times, like this, like in the video, some examples that the athlete used were that it is an accumulation of every ball that she's thrown. So an accumulation is it is all if you take every single all of the hard work, every single pitch that she's thrown, the Olympics are an accumulation of all of that hard work. She also said it's an accumulation of every bruise. So when you get hit by something and it leaves a mark on your skin, that's a bruise. And so she's saying that when she goes to the Olympics, it's an accumulation of every time she's been injured or hurt. This is all coming to that moment. Okay? So accumulation. The next word here, remember. Remember. Okay. I think a lot of you probably have heard this before, but to remember is to have something in your mind for later. So many of you remembered your vocabulary words from yesterday. Or I have to remember to study for a test. I have to make sure that I do that to keep it in my mind for later. Or you can remember details such as if I give you my phone number, you may remember my phone number. Keep it in your mind. Okay, next word, envision. Envision.
Envision.
Vision.
Good. So envision is to see or imagine something in the future. So when we envision, it's not something that's happening right now. We can see it, and usually we're thinking of ourselves or something that we are involved in. We envision it for the future, things to come later. So I might envision myself I might envision myself being fluent in Spanish. Because I'm learning Spanish, I want to be fluent in Spanish in the future. So I can envision myself being fluent and speaking Spanish just naturally. I can envision that. It's something that may happen in the future. Envision. Okay. Focus. Focus.
Focus.
Focus.
Focus. Pay close attention to, or to make a priority, or to make something important. So when we focus on something, we look at it very closely and we pay a lot of attention to it. So you may need to focus on your studies or focus on your homework. Or maybe during a test, you focus on the exam. You pay close attention to what you're doing and you make it a priority or make it important. So that's how we can use focus, all right? So the next word, to matter. To matter. To matter. So when something matters, it has importance. It's very important. So what is something that matters to you, Ray? What matters to you? Give me one thing that matters to me, something important to you.
Uh, Mm. Do you know Roger Federer?
I do.
Uh, his every game is important to me.
Oh, so his matches or his tennis matches matter to you. They're important because you like to watch them. See, me myself, I'm a Djokovic fan. So they were a little bit of a rivalry, but he just won the French Open, so that was cool for me. But Roger Federer, he's one of the best. Okay, next, to push. To push, especially to push oneself or to push someone. So this is a little bit different. This word can mean different things. But in this context, we're talking about pushing oneself. So to push oneself is to try very hard. So if you're pushing yourself, you're really trying to do the best that you can. So many of you, by doing this summer session that's outside of your school schedule, you're pushing yourself to learn English. You're trying very hard. You're making that something that you really want to do. So you are pushing yourself. And last, we'll do train. Train. Mm-hmm. So athletes train a lot. So training is to practice or to study. So athletes do this all of their lives. They train for the Olympics. They practice their sports for the Olympics. So they train for the Olympics. Okay? So that is some vocabulary that we will focus on for today's lesson. All right. So now this is a little writing practice, and what I want you to do is in the chat. So in the chat, I hopefully everyone can knows how to leave a direct message. If you need help direct messaging, let me know. But I want all the students to send me a message directly answering these 3 questions. And this is to look at your writing and how you compose a sentence in writing, not just verbally. So I want you to answer these 3 questions. What is something that you have trained for? Okay? And after you answer what have you trained for, what did you focus on to train? And then last, why did it matter that you did very well? Because I'm thinking if you trained for something, you must have wanted to do well. So why did it matter that you did well for what you were training for? Okay? So work on writing that and just send me a direct message and I'll give you a little over 5 minutes. I know we are getting toward the end, but maybe about 8 minutes or so. I'll see how everyone's doing and we'll come back really quickly and we'll probably start with some of this next week or I'll respond to you. So take some time to write your responses and you can send those directly to me in the Skype chat. Okay, and just in case you all might need a little review of the vocabulary. Oh, actually, I'll leave it here. Does everyone have these 3 questions? I'll leave these 3 questions. Does everyone have those? Or would it help to have the words, the vocabulary words? I can leave this up or I can put the vocabulary words. Okay, so I'll leave this up for now. I think we have train, focus, and matter. Those are the 3 vocabulary words we're focusing on this one. Okay. Yes, and I'll answer just a few more questions from our observers here. So another question that was brought up is, did I have any trouble with confidence in my knowledge of English? And the answer is yes. And the reason is because, as many of you know, and probably even our students can attest to this in Mandarin, sometimes we don't always say things the exact way that they should be said, or we don't say things grammatically correct. And so, and some of this has been, it's not even just the little mistakes that we think about, like, oh, saying someone did good instead of saying someone did well. Those are some of the ones that we think about all the time. But even some of our other rules we break quite often in regular colloquial conversation. And so that does, it is hard to get confident in that. And also, just because you can speak or write a language, sometimes you don't know what all of those rules are called. So I especially had to do a lot of thinking about the different tenses or the different grammatical structures. So is it present perfect? Is it past continu, is it present continuous? Is it, all those different things. So it is difficult sometimes to have confidence in that. But what I think really helps is to go into the situation knowing that you don't have to be perfect. And just because you're a teacher, it doesn't mean that you are done learning or that you know everything there is to know. And so I always just like to be honest with my students. If they do ask a question and maybe I don't know the exact answer, there's no shame in saying, I don't know that, but I will find out for you. But I think that the most important thing is that if you say that, you actually do make it a point to find out the answer and tell the student. Don't just say, I'll find out, and then never come back to it. Make sure that you always come back to give the student, then you'll also learn. So next time, you'll know. And hopefully, I think even after teaching for 10, 15, 20 years, there will still be questions that come up that you maybe don't know. And so there's no shame in that. But the answer is yes, definitely. And so, and what did I do to gain my confidence in my teaching? Um, I'm still working on that. So I will let you know when I figure out the perfect solution. But it's something that I think we all struggle with a little bit, and part of that I think is healthy too, because it makes sure that I am still in a position where I want to learn and want to make myself better. So, um, okay, is it hard getting hired for EFL teacher with online work? That depends. It depends on what your schedule is and the type of students that you want to have. Many of the online programs that I have found are they are geared in the Asia market, and so a lot of times the times are at bad times depending on where you live. So for instance, I also teach for a couple of companies, Magic Ears and VIP Kid, and their peak hours are very early in the morning, especially since in China and Taiwan, they don't observe daylight savings. And so when we fall back in the fall, it makes the classes even an hour earlier than they already were. So sometimes that means your peak hours for me in the central time zone US could be 4 to 6 a.m. Or, in the summertime, 5 to 6 a.m. And so, or 5 to 7 a.m. or 6 to 8, 4 to 7. So very early in the morning. And so if you're not willing to teach at these times, I've found less options, but they are out there. So they are out there. But I think that's probably the hardest part, is just the timing and when you want to teach. Okay, let's go back to our students. I think I am getting some responses here. And so, someone's putting it in the chat here. Okay, and it looks like, all right, so now let's see here. So someone answered, so does anyone want to I still want you to send them to me. Everyone still send me your responses, but how about anyone want to answer our first question? What is something that you trained for? Can you tell me what is something that you trained for? If you sent me your responses, you can go ahead and tell me. So what, and you can just read. You can read your responses if you prefer.
Chloe.
I have trained for volleyball game.
Train for a volleyball game. Okay. And what did you focus on when you trained?
I practice playing volleyball with my classmates as long as we have free time.
Okay. Okay. So is there anything about volleyball that you practice? Maybe did you practice serving the volleyball?
Yeah.
Did you practice? Oh, okay. So serving. So that could be something that you focused on. I focused on serving when practicing volleyball. Okay. And anyone else? How about Leo? Leo, what have you focused on? Or what have you trained for? I'm sorry. What have you trained for?
I have trained for basketball for a long time, and I am in basketball team in junior high school.
Great. So what are some things that you focused on when you train, or what do you focus on?
I focus the skills and the physical fitness in the training.
Okay, so you focus on. Make sure to add the on. I focus on. And then list your things. So you focus on the skills. Okay. And then why did it matter that you did well? Why did that matter?
Because of the game of basketball.
It mattered because of the game of basketball. So do you want to be good at basketball?
Yes.
Okay. So that's why it mattered. You train because you want to do well. You want to be good at basketball. So that is the reason why it mattered. Okay. So good job, class. Everyone, if you haven't sent me a message of your responses, please make sure that you do that. I will take a look and I'll respond to you directly. There is homework tonight for our class on Friday. So please make sure to check your Google Classrooms to see the homework for our next class. And the homework will be an exercise where you will watch a video, which the video is posted in our Google Classroom, and then fill in the blanks for this. So this is all about the Olympics. So one of our students wanted to know the history of the Olympics. And so this video will talk a lot about the history of the Olympics. And so watch the video and then try to complete the fill in the blanks. And a tip is that if you have the worksheet open while you watch the video, it may help you fill in some of those words because some of these are not words that you may be familiar with. So try your best, and if you don't catch some of them, don't worry. We will definitely go over it in our next class. Okay? So good job today, everyone. Any questions?
Let me talk to the students. Please send your messages directly to Quentin and tell your teacher who you are because some of you use Chinese names. So your teacher won't be able to know who you are. So copy and paste your answers and send them to your teacher, Quentin. And also don't forget to tell your teacher who you are, okay? Your English name. All right, please mute your microphone and say thank you, Teacher Quentin.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
teacher.
teacher.
So we will see you Thursday night, right?
Thursday night, Friday morning.
Yes. Okay. All right. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
See you later. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.